My name is Catherine.
And my name is Lexi. My name is Chloe. And we're gonna read The Little Prince.
Yeah, today we're gonna read The Little Prince. So let's just start the story. It said, I suspect that for his escape, he took advantage of the migration of wild birds.
Where was he escaping?
I don't know what he was escaping from. It says, Chapter 1. Once, when I was 6 years old, I saw a beautiful picture in a book.
Is that what you call beautiful?
Look at that. About the primeval forest called True Stories. It showed a boa constrictor swallowing an animal. Here is a copy of the drawing. The book stated, boa constrictors swallow their prey whole without chewing it, whereupon they can no longer move and sleep for 6 months that they need for digestion.
That's one-fin snake. What? It swallows an elephant.
Yeah. I then reflected deeply upon the adventures in the jungle. And it says the drawing number 1 was like this. I showed my masterpiece to the grown-ups and asked them if my drawing frightened them. They answered, why should anyone be frightened by a hat?
That is not a hat.
My drawing did not represent a hat. It was a picture of a boa constrictor digesting an elephant. So I made another drawing of the inside of the boa constrictor to enable the grown-ups see it clearly. They always need explanations. My drawing number 2 looked like this. The grown-ups then advised me to give up my drawings of boa constrictors, whether from the inside or the outside, and to devote myself instead to geography, history, arithmetic, and grammar. Thus, I gave up what has been a magnificent career as a painter at the age of 6. I had been disappointed by the lack of success of my drawing number 1 and my drawing number 2. Grown-ups never understand anything by themselves, and it is rather tedious for children to have to explain things to them time and time again. Therefore, I had to choose another profession and learn to pilot airplanes. I flew more or less all over the world, and indeed, geography has been extremely useful to me. I'm able to distinguish between China and Arizona at a glance. It is extremely helpful if one gets lost in the night. As a result,
that does not look like a hat.
As a result of which I have been in touch throughout my life with all kinds of serious people. I have spent a lot of time with grown-ups. I have seen them at very close quarters that I'm afraid has not greatly enhanced my opinion of them. Whenever I met one who seemed reasonably clear-sighted, I showed them my drawing number 1, which I have always kept as an experiment. I wanted to find out whether he or she truly understood, but the answer was always, that is a hat. So I gave up mentioning boa constrictors or primeval forests or stars. I would bring myself down to this or her level and talk about bridge, golf, politics, and neckties. And the grown-up will be greatly pleased to have met such a sensible person. So I lived alone, with no one that could really talk to, until I had an accident in the Sahara Desert 6 years ago. Something broke down in my engine, and since there was neither a mechanic nor a passenger with me, I prepared myself for a difficult, but what I hoped would be a successfully repair all alone. It was a matter of life or death for me. I had scarcely enough drinking water for a week.
What, a week?
On the first night, I fell asleep on the sand. A 1,000 miles from any human habitation. I was far more isolated than a shipwrecked sailor on a raft in the middle of the ocean was.
That looks like a goat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it looks like a sheep too. I think like both sheeps when they're like a little bit like young, they got little horns.
Yeah, well, when they're males, they have horns. Thus, you can imagine my surprise at sunrise when an odd little voice woke me up. It said, "Please, draw me a sheep." What? Draw me a sheep? I jumped up, completely thunderstruck. I rubbed my eyes, blinked hard, and looked carefully around me. And I discovered an extraordinary little boy watching me with great seriousness. Here's the best portrait I was able to draw of him later.
That's number 3.
That's 130. But of course, my drawing is not half as charming as the model. And it is not my fault. I had been discouraged by grown-ups in my career as a painter when I was 6 years old, and I never learned to draw anything, with the exception of boas from the outside and boas from the inside. I therefore stared in total astonishment at the sudden apparition. Do not forget that I was 1,000 miles away from any inhabited region, but my little chap did not seem to be either lost or dead, tired of dying of hunger, thirst, or fear. He did not look like a child lost in the middle of the desert, 1,000 miles from any inhabited region. When finally I managed to speak, I said to him, "Bud, what are you doing here?" Whereupon he repeated softly and gravely, "Please, draw me a sheep."
Please draw me a sheep.
When a mystery is too overpowering, wonder not to disobey. Absurd as it seemed to me, 1,000 miles from any human habitation and in
this
danger
looks like a sheep.
of death. That looks like a sheep.
Yeah.
I took a sheet of paper and my fountain pen out of my pocket. But I suddenly remembered that my studies had been concentrated on geography, history, mathematics, and grammar. So I told the little chap, a little crossly too, that I did not know how to draw. He replied, "That doesn't matter. Draw me a sheep." Since I had never drawn a sheep, I drew for him one of the two from the outside. Since I never draw a sheep, I drew for him one of the 2 pictures I had drawn so often. It was that of the boa constrictor from the outside, and I was astounded to hear the little fellow saying, No, I don't want an elephant inside a boa. A boa constrictor is a very dangerous creature, and an elephant is very cumbersome. Everything is very small where I live. What I need is a sheep. Draw me a sheep." So I drew.
I look kind of like a little bit like Tangle. And that's not what he wants. He wants a sheep. Another sheep.
Yeah.
He wants this sheep right here.
You think so?
Yeah.
He looked at it carefully and said, "No, that one is already very sick. Draw me another one." And I drew. What about this one?
Meh.
It looks too much like a ram.
Too much.
My little friend said gently and indulgently, "You see yourself that it's not a sheep. This is a ram. It has horns." Once again, I made another drawing, but it was rejected too, like the previous ones. This one is too old. I want a sheep that will live for a long time. My patience had run out by then, as I was in a hurry to start dismantling my engine as soon as possible. So I scribbled this drawing and I explained that it's only the box. The sheep you asked for is inside.
That looks like a block.
Well, it's got little holes for the sheep to breathe.
It looks like just an ordinary box. And
Okay.
there's just rocks inside.
No, there's a chip inside, Lexi. But I was very surprised to see the face of my young judge lighting up. That is exactly the way I wanted it. Do you think this chip will need a lot of grass? Why? Because where I live, everything is so small. There should be enough grass for him. I have given you a very small chip. He bent his head over the drawing. Not so small that... Look, he has gone to sleep. This is how I met the acquaintance of Little Prince.
I think I need to draw some grass here, like in the box.
Yeah?
How's he gonna put it in?
With his imagination, I guess.
So why can't he make a pie sheep?
I don't know. That was the end of chapter 2. Chapter number 3 of The Little Prince.
Chapter number 3.
It took me a long time to find out where he came from. The little prince who asked me so many questions never seemed to hear the ones I asked him. It is thanks to the odd word, here and there, that everything was revealed to me. For instance, when he saw my airplane for the first time, I should not draw my airplane. That would be far too complicated for me. He asked me, what is that object? It is not an object. It flies. It is an airplane. It is my airplane. And I was proud to be able to tell him that I could fly. He cried out then, what? You dropped down from the sky? Yes, I replied modestly. Oh, that's funny. And the little prince broke into a lovely peal of laughter, which annoyed me very much. I like my misfortunes to be taken seriously. So you two come from the sky. From which planet?
The Earth.
The Earth?
Is he gonna tell him?
I don't know. I immediately perceive a gleam of light in the mystery of his presence, and at once question him. So if you
No,
come from
it's
another planet, this is the planet.
And that's him?
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a little boy.
That's the little prince. But he didn't reply. He nodded gently, whistle, gazing at my airplane. It is true that on that you can't have come from very far away. And he sank into a long reverie. Then, taking my chip out of his pocket, he contemplated his treasure. You can imagine how it aroused my curiosity by his half-confidence about the other planets. So I tried to find out a little more. Where do you come from, my little fellow? What is this where I live, of which you are speaking? Where do you want to take my chip? After a thoughtful silence, he replied, what I like about the box you have given me is that he can use it as his sad house at night. That is so, and if you are good, I will give you a rope, so you can tie him during the day, and a post to tie him to. But the little prince seemed shocked by my proposal. Tie him? What a queer idea! But if you do not tie him up, he will wander off and get lost. My friend burst out laughing again. But where do you think he will go?
Nowhere?
Anywhere, just straight ahead. Whereupon the little prince remarked gravely, it wouldn't matter. Whereupon everything is so small where I live, and perhaps a little wistful. He added, straight ahead of oneself, nobody can go very far. And that's the end of chapter 3. Chapter number 4 of The Little Prince. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, 4 is enough.
Okay, so let's say, thus, I had learned a second very important thing, that his planet of origin was scarcely any larger than a house. But that did not really surprise me very much. I knew very well that apart from the large planets such as Earth, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus, which have been given names, there are hundreds of others.
Like a little prince world?
Yeah, which have been, which are sometimes so small that it is difficult to see them through a telescope.
Wait a minute. The world is so big.
Yeah, you need a telescope to see other planets, right? When an astronomer discovers one of them, he does not give it a name, but only a number. He might call it, for example, Asteroid 325. I have serious reasons to believe that the Little Prince planet of origin was the asteroid known as B612. A Turkish astronomer has only observed this asteroid once through a telescope in 1909. At the time, he organized a great demonstration of his discovery in an international astronomical congress, but because of his Turkish attire, nobody believed him. Grown-ups are like that. Fortunately for the reputation of asteroid B612, however, a Turkish dictator imposed European custom upon his subjects under pain of death.
Mommy?
So the astronomer repeatedly his demonstration. Fortunately for the reputation of asteroid B612, however, a Turkish dictator imposed European custom upon his subjects under pain of death. Okay, so the astronomer repeated his demonstration in 1920, dressed in an elegant suit, and this time everybody was convinced.
Ellie?
If I have told you these details about asteroid B612 and reveal its number to you, it is on account of grown-ups. Grown-ups love figures. When you talk to them about a new friend, they never ask questions about essential matters. They never say to you, what does his voice sound like? What games does he prefer? Does he collect butterflies? Instead, they ask you, how old is he? How many brothers does he have? How much does he weigh? How much money does his father earn? It is only that they feel they know him. If you were to mention to grown-ups, I've seen a beautiful house built with pink springs, with generous of the wisdom cells and doves on the roof, they would not be able to imagine such a house. You would have to say to them, I saw a house worth 100,000 pounds. Then they would exclaim, oh, how lovely house that is. Thus, if you say to them the proof that the little prince really existed is that he was enchanting, that he laughed, and that he wanted a sheep. Now when you want a sheep, it proves that you exist. They will shrug their shoulders and will treat you as if you were a child. But if you say to them the planet he came from is asteroid B612, then they will be convinced and leave you alone with their questions. That is the way they are. One must not hold it against them. Children should show great understanding towards grown-ups. But of course, for those of us who understand life, we cannot care less about figures. I should have liked to start the story like a fairy tale. I should have liked to say, once upon a time there was a little prince who lived on a planet scarcely bigger than himself, and who had need of a friend. For those who understand what life is all about, it would have seemed closer to the truth, for I do not want my book to be read carelessly. I have experienced so much grief in setting down these memories. 6 years have elapsed since my little friend left me, with his sheep. If I am attempting to describe him, it is in order not to forget him. It is sad to forget a friend.
Really, this is hard.
Yeah, not everyone has a friend, and I could become like grown-ups who are only concerned with figures. That is why I have bought a box of paints and some pencils, It is hard to take up drawing again at my age, having never made any attempts other than drawing a boa from the outside and a boa from the inside at the age of 6. I should certainly try, but I am not all sure of succeeding. One drawing is alright, another shows no resemblance at all of one drawing is alright, another shows no resemblance at all to its subject. The height is too small. The height is not right either. Okay, smile. One drawing is alright, another shows no resemblance at all to its subject. The height is not right either. Here the little prince is too tall, there he is too small, and I am not sure about the color of his suit. So I persist by trial and error to the best of my ability. I should also make mistakes about some more important details, but I must be forgiven for that. My friend never explained anything to me. Perhaps he thought I was like him, but unfortunately I cannot see cheap through boxes. Perhaps I am a little like grown-ups. I am getting old. Chapter number 5. Each day I learned something about the planet, about the little prince's departure from it, about his journey. The information would come very slowly, following the course of the little prince's thoughts. Thus it was that on the third day I heard about the catastrophe of the baobabs. Once again it was thanks to the sheep, for suddenly the little prince questions me as if seized by a grave doubt. Is it true, is it not, that sheep eat little shrubs? Yes, that is true. Oh, I'm glad. I did not understand why the fact that sheep eat shrubs was so important, but the little prince added, therefore they also eat baobabs. I pointed out to the little prince that baobabs are not little bushes, but trees as tall as churches, and that even if he were to take a whole herd of elephants away with him, the herd would not be able to eat up one single baobab. The idea of a herd of elephants made the little prince laugh. One would have to pile them up on top of another, then he remarked wisely, before they grow to such a size. The baobabs start out by being small.
No, it's a teeny tiny little planet.
That is true, I said, but why do you want your sheep to eat the small baobabs?
But
He answered me, come, as if it was self-evident. I had to exert a considerable mental effort to work this problem out for myself. It seemed that on the little prince planet, as on all planets, there were good plants and bad plants. Good seeds come from good plants, and bad seeds come from bad plants. But seeds are invisible. They remain dormant in the depth of the earth until one of them suddenly decides to wake up. It stretches itself timidly at first, and then begins to push a charming little sprig inoffensively towards the sun. If it is merely a sprout of radish or a spring of rosebush, it can be left to grow as it wishes. But if it is a weed, it should be torn out at once, as soon as it is recognized. If so happens that there were some terrible seeds on the little prince planet, they were baobab seeds. The soil of the planet was infested with them, but if you intervene too late, you will never get rid of a baobab. It spreads over the entire planet. Its root bore clear through it, and if the planet is too small and if there are too many baobabs, the planet explodes. It is a question of discipline, said the little prince to me later on. When you have finished your toilet in the morning, it is the time to attain the planet's own toilet with great care. One must pull out the baobabs very regularly as soon as they can be distinguished from the rose bushes. They resemble so closely when they are very young. It is very tedious work, the little prince added, but also very easy. And one day he advised me to try and make a beautiful drawing, so as is to impress all this upon the children where I live. Okay. He said to me, if they travel one day, it might be of use to them. It might be convenient sometimes to put off one's work until another day, but in the case of baobabs, that always means a catastrophe. I knew of a planet inhabited by a lazy man. He had neglected trees and bushes. Therefore, basing my work upon the description of the Little Prince, I made the drawing of that planet. I don't like to sound like a moralist, but the danger of bobobs is so little known and the risks are so considerable to whoever might get lost on an asteroid that for once I make an exemption to my reserve. I say plant children beware of bobobs. It is in order to warn my friends of a danger of which they, like me, have been unaware for so long, that I have worked so hard over this drawing. My lesson was worth it. You might ask yourselves, why is there no other drawing in the book as impressive as the drawing of Bobob? The answer is quite simple. I have tried, but with the others have not had the slightest success. When I drew the Bobobs, a feeling of urgency drove me. And that's the end of chapter 5.
Chapter 5, I'll see you later.
Chapter 6. Ah, little prince, bit by bit I came to understand your sad little life. For a long time, entertainment had been the pleasure of watching at the sunsets. I learned a new detail of the morning of the fourth day, when you said to me, I am very fond of sunsets. Let us go and watch the sunset now. But we must wait. Wait for what? Wait for the sun to set. You looked very surprised at first, and then you laughed to yourself and said to me, I keep on thinking I am at home. Yes, indeed. When it is at midday in the United States, the sun, as everyone knows, is setting in France. If you could travel to France in 1 minute, you'll be able to watch the sun setting there. Unfortunately, France is too far away for that. But on your tiny little planet, all you needed to do was to move your chair a few steps, and you could watch the twilight falling whenever you felt like it. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, I just wish I lived on that planet.
One day I watched the sun setting 44 times, you told me. And a little later you added, you know, when one is so terrible sad, one loves sunset. The day you watched those 44 sunsets, were you that sad? I asked, but the little prince made no reply. And that's the end of chapter 6.
Chapter number 7.
On the 5th day, and once again thanks to the sheep, the secret of the little prince's life was revealed to me, without any preamble, and as if it were the result of a silently thought out problem. He asked me abruptly, a sheep, if it eats bushes, does it eat flowers too? A sheep eats anything it comes across. Even flowers with thorns? Yes, even flowers with thorns. Then the thorns, what use are they? I did not know. I was very busy trying to unscrew a bolt which had got stuck in my engine. I was deeply worried as the breakdown of my plane was beginning to look extremely serious to me. And my so drinking water was running out fast, and I could only fear the worst. The thorns, what use are they? The little prince never let go of that question. Once he had raised it, it was annoying about my bolt, and I answered with the first thing that came to my mind. Thorns are quite useless. Flowers have them out for a cheer spite. Oh. But after a moment of complete silence, he said with a kind of resentfulness, I don't believe you. Flowers are weak creatures. They are naive. They reassure themselves as best as they can that they believe that their thorns are terrible weapons. I did not answer. At that instant, I was saying to myself, if this bolt continues to resist me, I shall knock it off with a hammer.
There's a little bit left.
Yeah. Once again, the little prince stirred my thoughts. And do you actually believe that flowers? No, I don't believe anything. I just answered you with the first thing that came into my head. I am busy with more serious matters. He stared at me in total astonishment. Serious matters. He could see me with a hammer in my hand and my fingers black with engine grease, bending down over an object, which seemed to him extremely ugly. You talk just like grown-ups. This made me feel a little ashamed for myself. Relentlessly, he added, you are confusing everything, mixing everything up. He was really quite angry. He shook his golden locks in the wind. I know of a planet where there is a red-faced gentleman. He has never smelled a flower. He has never looked at a star. He has never loved anybody. He has spent all of this time adding up figures. And all day, he keeps on repeating over and over like you. I am busy with serious matters. And he swells up with pride. But he is not a man. He's a mushroom. A what? A mushroom.
A mushroom. A mushroom.
The little prince was now pale with anger. For millions of years, flowers have been growing thorns. For millions of years, sheep have still been eating flowers. And it is not worth trying to understand why they go to such lengths to grow thorns, which are not of use to them. Is their war between sheep and flowers not important? No more serious and more important than the sums of the red-faced gentleman. And if I know, I myself, of a flower which is unique in the world and grows nowhere other than on my planet, and that has a small sheep can destroy it with a simple bite, just like that, one morning, without realizing what it is doing, is that not important? He blushed and continued. If someone loves a flower of which there is only one in a million and millions of stars, it is enough to make him happy when he looks at them, for they can say to himself, my flower is somewhere out there. But if the sheep eats the flower, it is not for him, as if all of a sudden all the stars went dark, and you think that is not important? He could say no more because he was overcome with tears. The night had fallen. I had dropped my tools. I couldn't have cared less about my hammer, my bolt, thirst, or death. There was not a star, a planet, mine, the earth, a little prince to be comforted. I took him in my arms and rocked him gently. I said to him, the flower you love is in no danger. I should draw you a muzzle. I should draw you a fence for your flowers. I did not really know what to say to him. I felt very awkward. I did not know how to reach him, how to catch up with him. The down of tears is so mysterious. And that's the end of chapter 7.
It's so sad for the flower.
Chapter 8.
Chapter 8, chapter 8, chapter 8, 8, 8. Chapter 8, chapter 8, chapter 8, 8, 8.
I soon learned to know this flower better. On the little prince's planet, there had always been very simple flowers, with a single ring of petals, occupying a very little space and no trouble to anybody. They would appear one morning in the grass and fade away in the evening. But one day, from a seed blown from no one knew where, a new flower had come up, and the little prince had watched very closely over the small shoot, which has not at all like any of the other shoots of his planet. It could have been a new kind of a bud, but the shrub soon stopped growing and started to develop a flower. The little prince, watching the growth of an enormous bud, sensed that this could well lead to a miraculous apparition. But the flower continued in her preparations for her beauty in the shelter of her green chamber. She chose her colors with the greatest care. She dressed slowly, carefully, arranging her petals one by one. She didn't wish to appear all crumbled, like a poppy. She only wished to appear in the full glory of her beauty. Oh yes, she was very vain. Her mysterious preparations had lasted for days and days. And then one morning, when the sun was rising, she suddenly showed herself. And having worked so hard and taken such care, she yawned and said, "Oh, I'm scarcely awake. Forgive me, I'm still quite disheveled." But the little prince couldn't restrain his admiration and exclaimed, "Oh, how beautiful you are!" "Am I not?" the flower replied gently. "And I was born at the same time as the sun." The little prince had to admit that she was not excessively modest, but she was so enchanting. "But there are no tigers on my planet," objected the little prince. "And anyway, tigers don't eat weeds." "But I'm not a weed," the flower replied sweetly. "Please forgive me. I am not afraid of tigers, but I hate drugs. You wouldn't have a screen for me, by any chance?" "A horror of drugs. That's really bad luck for a plant."
Can the flower talk?
The what?
Can the flower talk?
Yeah, she's been talking to him.
Like I guess it is a friend.
It is a friend, yeah, and she's not very modest. "A horror of drugs. That's really bad luck for a plant," remarked the little prince, and added to himself, "This flower is indeed a very complex creature. In the evening, I want you to put me under a glass glove. It is very cold here, and where you live. I'm rather uncomfortable. Now, where I come from."
Is it the flower or the little prince?
The flower, she wants a glass glove. Too late, she interrupted herself. She had arrived as a seed. She could not have known anything about other worlds. Embarrassed at having been discovered preparing such a naive lie, she coughed a couple of times so as to confuse the little prince. "Where's the screen?" "I was going to fetch it up, but you were talking to me." Whereupon she cut a little more so that she could feel remorse. Therefore, the little prince, in spite of the good will his love engaged there. Therefore, the little prince, in spite of the good will his love engaged toward her, came gradually to doubt her. He had taken words of no importance seriously and became very unhappy. "I shouldn't have listened to her," he confided to me one day. "One should never listen to the flowers. One must admire them and breathe their fragrance. My perfume, my entire planet, but I did not know how to enjoy her. This tail of claws, which irritated me so much, should simply have touched my heart." And he confided further, "At the time, I was unable to understand anything. I should have based my judgment upon the deeds and not the words. She cast her fragrance and her radiance over me. I should never have run away from her. I should have guessed at the affection behind her poor little tricks. The flowers are not inconsistent, but I was too young to know how to love her." And that's the end of chapter 8.
8. Bye.
Now we're gonna read chapter number 9.
Chapter number 9.
I suspected for his escape, he took advantage of the migration of wild birds. On the morning of his departure, he put his planet in perfect order. He carefully swept his active volcanoes. He possesses 2 active volcanoes, and they were very convenient for heating his breakfast in the morning. He also had a volcano which was extinct, but as he pointed out, he never knows, so he also cleaned out the extinct volcano. If they are properly swept, volcanoes burn gently and regularly, without any eruptions. Volcanic eruptions are like chimney fires, on Earth of course. We are far too small to sweep our volcanoes. That is why they cause us so much trouble. The little prince also pulled up not without a sense of sorrow. The last little above shoots. He believed that he would never have to return. But all of these familiar activities seemed very precious to him on that last morning. Moreover, when he watched the flower for the last time and prepared to place her under her glass globe, he felt that he was very close to tears.
I'm really close to tears.
He was about to cry. He was really sad.
Why?
Because he was getting ready to leave.
His world?
Yeah,
And
with his
his
flower. Goodbye, he said to the flower, but she did not answer him. Goodbye, he said again. The flower coughed, but it was not because she had a cold. I've been silly, she whispered at last. I ask you forgiveness. Try to be happy. He was surprised by the absence of reproaches. He just stood there quite bewildered, and with the glass globe poised in midair, he did not understand its quiet sweetness. Of course I loved you, the flower said to him. If you were not aware of it, it was my fault. That is not important, but you have been just foolish. Try to be happy. Let that glove alone. I don't want it any longer. But my cold is not that bad. The good night air will do me good. I am a flower. But what about the animals? I should have to put up with 2 or 3 caterpillars if I want to see butterflies. I understand they are very beautiful. Otherwise, who will call upon me? You will be far away. As to large animals, I am not afraid of them. I have my claws. And as naive as ever, she showed her 4 thorns. Then she added, Don't hang about so. It's irritating. You have decided to leave, so leave. For she didn't want him to see her crying. She was a very proud flower. And that's the end of chapter 9. Okay, now we're gonna read chapter number 10.
Chapter 10, chapter 10, chapter 10, chapter 10.
He found himself in the neighborhood of the asteroid 325, 326, 327, 328, 329, and 330. So he started by visiting them to look for an occupation and to add onto his knowledge. A king inhabited the first one, clad in purple and ermine. He was seated on a throne, both simple and majestic. Ah, here comes a subject, exclaimed the king when he saw the little prince. And the little prince wondered to himself, how can he recognize me since he has never seen me before? He did not know that for kings the world was gently simplified. To them, all men are subjects. Come a little closer, so that I might see you better, said the king, inordinately proud of having someone to be king over at last. The little prince looked around to find a place to sit down. But the magnificent ermine robe covered the entire planet, so he remained standing, and since he was tired, he yawned. It is contrary to ethic to yawn in the presence of a king, said the monarch. I forbid you to do so. I cannot help it, replied the little prince in confusion. I have come a long journey, and I haven't slept at all. In which case, said the king, I ordered you to yawn. I have not seen anybody yawning for years. Yawns are a curiosity to me. Come on, yawn again. It is an order. Thank you. You are frightening me. I cannot yawn anymore, said the little prince, blushing. Hum, replied the king. Then I ordered you sometimes to yawn and sometimes to. He spluttered a bit and seemed vexed, for the king attached considerable importance to his authority being respected. He tolerated no disobedience. He was an absolute monarch, but as he was very, very kind, he gave reasonable orders. If I ordered a general, he would say, if I ordered a general to change himself into a seabird, and if the general did not obey me, it wouldn't be the general's fault. It wouldn't be my fault. May I sit down? Asked the little prince shyly. I ordered you to sit down, replied the king. I'm majestically gathering a fold of the ermine robe around him. But the little prince was puzzled. The planet was tiny. Over what could this king really rule? Sir, he began, please excuse my asking you a question. I ordered you to put your question to me, the king was quick to reply. Sir, over what do you rule? Over everything, replied the king, very simple. Over everything? The king made a sweeping gesture, taking his own planet, the other planets and the stars. Over all that, said the little prince. Over all that, the king answered. For his rule was not only absolute, it was also universal. And the stars obey you? Of course, said the king. They obey immediately. I do not tolerate insubordination. The little prince marveled at such power. If he possessed it, he could have watched not 44, but 72 or even 100 or 200 sunsets in one at the same day, without ever having to move his chair. And as he was feeling rather sad, remembering his small abandoned planet, he plucked up the courage to ask the king a favor. I should like to see a sunset. Please, do me that kindness. Order the sun to set. If I were to order a general to fly from one flower to another like a butterfly, or to write a tragedy, or to change himself into a seabird, and if the general did not carry out the order, which one of us would be at fault? It would be you, said the little prince firmly. Exactly. One must demand of each and every one what he or she is capable of. Authority is first and foremost based on reason. If you order your people to go and throw themselves into the sea, you will have a revolution on your hands. I have to ring to demand obedience because my orders are reasonable ones. What about my sunset? The little prince reminded him, for he never forgot a question once he asked it. You should have your sunset. I should demand it. But in accordance to my scientific of government, I should wait until conditions are favorable.
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 And then will that be? Asked the little prince. Hum, replied the king. Oh no, hum. I will be around. It will be this evening, about 20 minutes to 8. And you should see how well I am obeying. The little prince yawned. He regretted having to miss the sunset, but he was becoming too a little boy. I have nothing more to do here, he said to the king, so I'll be on my way again. Don't leave, said the king, who was too proud of having a subject. I'll make him your minister. A minister of what? Of justice. But there's nobody here to judge. We do not know that, said the king. I haven't yet made a complete tour of my kingdom. I am very old. There is no room here for a carriage, and walking makes me very tired. Oh, but I have looked already, said the little prince, bending down to give one more glance to the other side of the planet, just to be sure. Then you should judge yourself, answered the king. That is the most difficult thing at all. It is far more difficult to judge oneself than to judge others. If you succeeded in judging yourself rightly, then indeed you are very wise. As far as I am concerned, said the little prince, I can judge myself anywhere. I do not need to live here. Said the king. I believe that somewhere on my planet there is an old rat. I can hear him at night. You can judge that old rat. You will condemn him to death from time to time. Thus, his life will depend upon your justice. But on each occasion, you will spare him so as to keep him alive. He is the only one we have. I replied, the little prince.
That's the man.
Yeah, that's the man. I replied, the little prince. Do not like to condemn anyone to death, and I think I'll be on my way now. No, said the king. The little prince, having completed his preparations, had no wish to hurt the feelings of the old monarch. If your majesty wishes to be promptly obeyed, you should give me a reasonable order. You could, for example, order me to be gone in less than a minute. It seems to me that conditions are favorable. As the king said nothing, the little prince hesitated a moment, and then, with a sigh, he took his leave. "I make you my ambassador," the king called after him in haste. He had a magnificent air of authority. "Grown-ups are very strange," said the little prince to him as he continued his journey. Well, that was the end of chapter 10. To chapter 11.
Chapter 11.
A consented man inhabited the second planet. "Aha, here comes an admirer," he exclaimed as from afar he caught sight of the little prince. For to consented men, all other men are admirers. "Good morning," said the little prince. "You are wearing a funny kind of hat." "It is a hat for salutes," the consented man replied, "to rise when people acclaim me. Unfortunately, nobody ever comes this way." "Indeed," said the little prince, who did not understand what the consented man was talking about. "Clap your hands," the consented man advised. The little prince clapped his hands. The consented man raised his hat in the modest salute. "This is more fun than my visit to the king," the little prince said to himself. And he tried clapping his hands again. Then the consented man once again raised his hat in salute. After 5 minutes of this exercise, the little prince grew tired of the monotony of the game. "And to make you lower your hat, what should one do?" he asked. But the consented man didn't hear him. Consented men never hear anything but praise. "Do you really admire me very much?" he asked the little prince. "What does admire mean?" "To admire means that you consider me the handsomest, the best, the dressed, the richest, and the most intelligent man on this planet. But you are all alone on your planet. Do me this kindness. Admire me all the same." "I admire you," said the little prince with a slight shrug on his shoulders. "But why should that mean so much to you?" And the little prince went away. "Grown-ups are really very odd," he said to himself as he continued on his journey. The fourth planet belonged to a businessman. He was so much busy that he didn't even look up when the little prince arrived. "Good morning," the little prince said to him. "Your cigarette has gone out. 3 plus 2 make 5. 5 plus 7 makes 12. 12 plus 3 makes 15. Good morning. 15 plus 7 makes 22. 22 plus 6 makes 28. No time to light it again. 26 plus 5 makes 31. Phew. Then the makes 501,622,731. 500 million of what? Are you still there? 501 million of... I don't remember. I have so much work. I am a serious man. I have done amuse myself with balderdash. 2 and 5 make 7. 501 million of what? Repeated the little prince, who never in his life had let go of a question once he had asked it. The businessman raised his hand. "During the 54 years that I have been living on this planet, I have only been disturbed 3 times. The first time was 22 years ago by a cockchafer that dropped down from the goodness knows where. He made the most awful noise, and I made 4 errors in my sums. The second time was 11 years ago, by an attack of rheumatism. I don't get enough exercise. I have no time for slacking. I'm a serious man. The third time, well, this is it. As I was saying, 501 million. Millions of what? The businessman suddenly realized that there was no hope of being left in peace. Millions of those small objects one sometimes sees in the sky. Flies? Oh no, small glittering objects. Bees? Oh no, little golden objects that set lazy men into the idle dream. But I'm a serious man. I have no time for idle dreaming. Oh, you mean the stars? Yes, that's it, the stars. And what do you do with 500 million stars? 501,622,731. I'm a serious man. I am accurate. And what do you do with 500 million stars? 501,622,731. And what do you do with them? What do I do with them? Yes, nothing. I own them. You own the stars? Yes. But I have already seen a king who, kings own nothing. They reign over. It is quite different. And what is it to you to own the stars? It makes me rich. And what is the point of being rich? It enables me to buy other stars, if anybody can find any. This man, the little prince said to himself. Nonetheless, he put a few more questions. How can one own the stars? To whom do they belong? The businessman asked. Previously. I don't know. They don't belong to anyone. In which case, they are mine, because I was the first person to think of it. Is that sufficient? Of course it is. When you find a diamond that belongs to nobody, it is yours. When you discover an island that belongs to no one, it is yours. When you're the first to have an idea, you take out a patent on it. It is yours. And I own the stars, because nobody else before me thought of owning them. That is true, said the little prince. And what do you do with them? I administer them. I count them, I recount them, said the businessman. I am a man concerned with matters of consequence. The little prince was still not satisfied. If I own a silk scarf, I could put it around my neck and take it away with me. If I own a flower, I could pick it and take it away with me. But you cannot pick stars. No, but I can put them in my bank. Whatever does that mean? It means that I write down the numbers of my stars on a piece of paper, and then I put it in my drawer and lock it with a key. And that is all? That is enough. Quite amusing, thought the little prince. It is rather poetic, but it is, of course, no real importance. The little prince's ideas about what was important were very different from those of grown-ups. I myself own a flower, which I water every day, he told the businessman. I own 3 volcanoes, which I clean out every week. I always include the one which is extinct. One never knows. It is good for my volcanoes and good for the flower I own. But you are of no one to use the stars. The businessman opened his mouth but found nothing to say, and the little prince went on his way. Grown-ups are certainly absolutely extraordinary, he said, simply to himself as he continued on his journey. And that's the end of chapter 13. Chapter number 14. The 5th planet was very strange. It was the smaller one of all. There was just enough room for a street lamp and lamplighter. The little prince wondered what could be the use of a street lamp and lamplighter somewhere in the sky on a planet without houses or people. Nonetheless, he said to himself, perhaps this man is absurd. However, it is not as absurd as the king, the conceited man, the businessman, and the drunkard. For at least this work has some meaning. When he lights his street lamp, it is as he brought on one more star to life, or one more flower. When he puts out his lamp, he sends the flower or the star to sleep. It is a beautiful occupation, and since it is beautiful, it is truly useful. When he arrived on the planet, he saluted the lamplighter respectfully. Good morning. Why have you just put out your lamp? Those are the orders, replied the lamplighter. Good morning. What are the orders? The orders are that I put out my lamp. Good evening. And he lighted his lamp again. But why have you just lit it again? Those are the orders, replied the lamplighter. I don't understand, said the little prince. "There is nothing to understand," said the lamplighter. "Orders are orders. Good morning." And he put out his lamp. Then he mopped his brow with a handkerchief decorated with red squares. "My calling is a terrible one. In the old days it was reasonable. I put out the lamp in the morning and lit it again in the evening. For the rest of the day I could relax, and for the rest of the night I could sleep. And the orders have been changing since the time." "The orders have not been changed," said the lamplighter. "And that is the tragedy. From year to year, the speed of the planet's rotation has increased considerably, and the orders have not been changed." "And so?" asked the little prince. "Well, now that the speed has reached one rotation per minute, I do not have a second to rest. I have to put out my lamp 1 minute." "That is very funny. Where you live, a day only lasts 1 minute?" "It is not funny at all," said the lamplighter. "We have already been talking together for a whole month." "A month?" "Yes, 30 minutes. 30 days? Good evening." And so lit his lamp again. As the little prince watched him, he felt that he had come to love this lamplighter, so faithful to his orders. He remembered the sunsets, which he himself used to seek by simply moving his chair. He wanted to help his friend. You know, I believe there is a way which would allow you to take a rest whenever you wanted to." "I always wanted to rest," said the lamplighter, "for one can be both faithful and lazy." The little prince continued. "Your planet is so small that you can walk all around in the 3 strides. You just have to walk slowly enough to stay always in the sun. When you want to take a rest, you will walk, and the day will last for as long as you like." "That wouldn't help me very much," said the lamplighter. "The one thing I like in life is to sleep." "That is unfortunate," said the little prince. "That is indeed unfortunate," said the lamplighter. "Good morning," and he put out his lamp. "That man," said the little prince to himself as he continued his journey, "that man will be despised by all the others, by the king, by the conceited man, by the drunkard, by the businessman, but he is the only one who does not seem ridiculously for me. Perhaps it is because he is not only concerned with himself. What a sight of regret," he said to himself once again. "That man is the only one I could have made my friend, but his planet is really too small. There is not enough room for 2. What the little prince would not admit to himself was that he was sorry to leave his planet, but as it was with 1,420 sunsets every day. And that's the end of chapter 14. "But you are a geographer." "Exactly," said the geographer. "But I am not an explorer. I have no explorers on my planet. It is not the geographer's task to count the cities, the rivers, the mountains, the seas, the oceans, and the deserts. The geographer is far too important to waste his time browsing around. He never leaves his office, but he receives explorers. He questions them and notes down what they recall of their travels, and if the recollections of any of them seem interesting to him, the geographer orders an inquiry into the explorer's moral character. But why? Because an explorer who told lies will bring disaster on the books of the geographers, as would an explorer who drank too much." "But why?" asked the little prince. "Because drunkards see double. As a result, the geographer would note 2 mountains where, in fact, there was only 1. "I know someone," said the little prince, "who will make a bad explorer." "That is possible. Even when the moral character of the explorer is shown to be satisfactory, an investigation is ordered into his discovery. One goes to sea? No, that will be too complicated, but the explorer is requested to furnish proof. If, for example, the discovery is that of a big mountain, he is required to bring back some large stones from it. Suddenly, the geographer became very excited. "But you've come a long way. You are an explorer. You must describe your planet to me. And the geographer, having opened his register, sharpened his pencil, one started by noting the explorer's story in pencil, and when the explorer had provided the required proof, the information was filled in ink. Well, asked the geographer expectantly. Oh, where I live, said the little prince, it is not very interesting, because it is so small. I have 3 volcanoes, 2 are active, and the 3rd one is extinct. But one never knows. One never knows, says the geographer.
I want to see the tree.
Ahorita. I also have a flower. We don't record flowers, said the geographer. Why not? It is the prettiest thing on my planet. Because flowers are ephemeral. What does ephemeral mean? Geographies, said the geographer, are the most precious of all books. They are never out of fashion. A mountain rarely changes its place. It is very rare for an ocean to empty itself of its waters. We write of eternal things. But extinct volcanoes can wake up, the little prince interrupted. What does ephemeral mean? Whether volcanoes are extinct or active amounts to the same thing for us, said the geographer. What matters to us is the mountain. It does not change. But what does ephemeral mean? The little prince repeated once again. Since he had never in his life given up a question once, he had raised it up. It means danger of early disappearance. My flower is in danger of early disappearance? Of course it is. My flower is ephemeral, the little prince said to himself, and she has only 4 thorns to defend herself against the word, and I have left her all alone on my planet. That was the first moment of regret, but he took courage once again. What place would you advise me to visit now? He asked. The planet Earth, replied the geographer. It has a good reputation. And the little prince went away, thinking of his flower. Chapter 16. So the 7th planet was the Earth. The Earth is not just an ordinary planet. There are 111 kings, not to mention the Negro kings, of course, 7,000 geographers, 900,000 businessmen, 7.5 billion drunkards, and 311 million conceited individuals. In other words, approximately 2,000 million grown-ups. To give you an idea of the size of the Earth, I should explain that before the invention of electricity throughout the 6 continents, a veritable army of 462,511 lamplighters had to be maintained for the street lamps. Seen from a little distance, the effect was magnificent. The movements of this army were regularly like those of a ballet. First came the turn of the lamplighters of New Zealand and Australia. Then, having lit the lamps, they will go off to sleep. Next, the lamplighters of China and Siberia will join the dance, after which they too would disappear into the wings. Then came the run of the lamplighters of Russia and India, then those of Africa and Europe, then those of South Africa, then those of North America, and never would they make a mistake in the order of the entry onto the stage. It was fabulous. Only the man in charge of the single lamp at the North Pole and his colleague responsible for the single lamp at the South Pole could enjoy a carefree life of laziness. They only worked twice a year. And that's the end of chapter 16. Chapter 17.
17.
When one man wants to be funny, one may have to lie a little bit from time to time. I haven't been quite honest in talking to you about the lamplighters. I am running the risk of giving a false idea about our planet to those who do not know it. Men occupy very little space on the Earth. If the 2 billion inhabitants occupying the planet were to stand upright and crowded together as in a meeting, they could easily live on a public square 20 miles long and 20 miles wide. All humanity could be piled up on a small Pacific island. Grown-ups, of course, will never believe you. They think that they fill a lot of space. They consider themselves as important as bababs. You should invite them to make their own calculations. They adore figures and will be pleased, but do not waste your time on such a chore. It is unnecessary. I know you trust me. So when the little prince arrived on the earth, he was very surprised not to see any people. He was beginning to fear he had come to the wrong planet, when a coiled pale gold as the moon moved in the sand. Good evening, said the little prince politely. Good evening, said the snake. What planet have I fallen on? Asked the little prince. On the planet Earth, in Africa, replied the snake. Oh, then there are no people on Earth. This is desert. There are no people in the desert. The earth is big, said the snake. The little prince sat down on a stone and looked up at the sky. I wonder, he said, if the stars are lit up so that each of us can find his own star again. Look at my planet. It is right above us. But how far away is it? It is beautiful, said the snake. Why have you come here? I am having some difficulties with my flower. The little prince replied. Oh, said the snake. And they remained silent. Where are the men? Said the little prince, at last resuming the conversation. One feels rather lonely in the desert. It is just as lonely among men, said the snake. The little prince gazed at him for a long time. You're a funny animal, he said at last. You're as thin as a finger. But I am more powerful than a king's finger, said the snake. The little prince smiled. You do not look very powerful. You don't even have paws. You cannot even travel. I can carry you farther than any ship, said the snake. He twined himself around the little prince's ankle. The little prince said nothing. I feel sorry for you. So weak on this earth of granite. I might be able to help you one day if you become too homesick for your home planet. I can. Oh, I understand you perfectly, said the little prince. But why do you talk in riddles all the time? I solved them all, said the snake. And they both fell in silence. Now chapter 18.
18.
The little prince crossed the desert and met with only one flower, a flower with 3 petals, a flower of no importance. Good morning, said the little prince. Good morning, said the flower. Where are the men? The little prince asked politely. The flower had once seen a caravan passing. Men? I believe there are about 6 or 7 of them. I caught a glimpse of them several years ago, but one never knows where to find them. The wind blows them around. They have no roots, which makes their life rather trying. Goodbye, said the prince. Goodbye, said the flower. Okay, so chapter 19.
19.
The little prince climbed a high mountain. The only mountains he had ever knew were the 3 volcanoes, and they only reached up to his knees. And he used the extinct volcano as a footstool. From the top of a mountain as high as this one, he said to himself, I should be able to see the whole planet at one glance, and all the people. But the only things he could see were peaks of rock and sharp as needles. Good morning, he said politely. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, answered the echo. Who are you? Asked the little prince. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Answered the echo. Be my friends? I am all alone, he said. I am all alone, all alone, all alone, answered the echo. What a queer planet, he thought to himself. It is quite dry, covered with peaks. Quite salty, and the people have no imagination. They just repeat whatever everyone says to them. On my planet, I had a flower. She was always the first to speak. Chapter 20.
Chapter 20.
It was then the fox appeared. Good morning, said the fox. Good morning, the prince replied politely, although when he turned around, he saw nothing. I am here, said the boss, under the apple tree. Who are you? Said the little prince. You're very pretty.
Not a fox.
Yeah, that's a fox.
I want to see the
I am
fox.
a fox, todavía no está, said the fox. Come on and play with me, suggested the little prince. I am so terribly sad. I cannot play with you, said the fox. I am not tame. Oh, I'm so sorry, said the little prince. But after some thought, he asked, what does tame mean? You do not live here, said the fox. What are you looking for? I am looking for man, said the little prince. What does tame mean? Men, said the fox, have rifles and they hunt. It is a real nonsense. They also raise chickens. They are the only interest. Are you looking for chickens? No, said the little prince. I am looking for friends. What does tame mean? It is something which is too often forgotten, said the fox. It means to establish ties. To establish ties? That's right, said the fox. To me, you're still just a little boy, like 100,000 other little boys, and I have no need of you, and you have no need of me either. To you, I am just a fox like 100,000 other foxes. But if you tame me, we should need one another. To me, you will be unique in the entire world, and I should be unique to you in the entire world. I am beginning to understand, said the little prince. There is a flower. I think she has tamed me. Possibly, said the fox. One sees all sorts of things on the earth. Oh, but this is not the earth, said the little prince. The fox seemed puzzled. On another planet? Yes. Are there any hunters on that planet? No. That's interesting. And any chickens? No. Nowhere's perfect, sighed the fox.
Nothing's perfect.
Presently he returned to this theme. My life is monotonous. I hunt chickens and men hunt me. All chickens are alike, and all men are alike. So I get a little bored. But if you tame me, my life will be full of sunshine. I should recognize the sound of a step different from all others. The other steps send my hurrying on the ground. Yours will call me out of my burrow like the sound of music. And look yonder. Do you see the cornfields? I do not eat bread. Wheat is of no use to me. Those cornfields have nothing to say to me. That is sad, but you have here the color of gold. So it will be marvelous when you have tamed me. Wheat, which is also golden, will remind me of you, and I should love the sound of the wind in the wheat. The fox became silent and gazed for a long time at the little prince. Please, tame me, he said. Willingly, the prince replied, but I haven't got much time. I have friends to discover and lots of things to understand. One can only understand the things one tames, said the fox. Men have no more time to understand anything. They buy ready-made things in the shops, but since there are no shops where you can buy friends, men no longer have any friends. If you want a friend, tame me. What should I do? Asked the little prince. You must be very patient, replied the fox. First, you will sit down at a little distance from me, like that, in the grass. I shall watch you out of the corner of my eye, and you will say nothing. Words are a source of misunderstandings, but every day you can sit a little closer to me. The next day, the little prince came back. You should have come back at the same hour, said the fox. If you, for example, you come at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I should start feeling happy at 3 o'clock. As the time passes, I shall feel happier and happier. At 4 o'clock, I shall become agitated and start worrying. I should discover the price of happiness. However, if you come at just any time, I should never know when I should prepare my heart to greet you. One must observe the proper rites. What is a rite? Asked the little prince. It is something which is all too often forgotten, said the fox. It is what makes one day different from other days, 1 hour different from other hours. For example, there is a rite among my hunters. One Thursday they go dancing with the village girls. Therefore, Thursday is a marvelous day for me. I can take a walk as far as the vineyards, but if the hunters were to go dancing just any day, every day would be like any other day for me, and I would never have a holiday. Thus, I was that the little prince thanked the fox. And when the time came for this departure, the fox said, "Oh, I shall cry." "It is your own fault," said the little prince. "I wish you no harm, but you wanted me to tame you." "Yes, that is so," said the fox. "But you are going to cry," said the little prince. "Yes, that is so," said the fox. "Then it has not helped you in any way." "It has helped me," said the fox, "because of the color of the wheat fields." Then he added, "Go and have another look at the roses, and you will understand that yours is indeed unique in the entire world. Then you will come back to say goodbye to me. And I shall tell you a secret as a gift." The little prince went off to look at the roses again. "None of you is at all like my rose. Yes, you are nothing," he said to them. "Nobody has tamed you as you have tamed one. You're like my fox when I first encountered him. He was just a fox like 100,000 other foxes. But I made him my friend, and now he's unique in the world." And the roses were greatly embarrassed. "And you're beautiful, but you're empty," he continued. "One cannot die for you. Not to be sure, an ordinary passerby would believe that my very own rose looked just like you. But she is far more important than all of you because she is the one I have watered. And it is she that I have placed under a glass globe. And it is she that I have sheltered behind a screen. And it is for her that I have killed the caterpillars, except for those 2 or 3 saved to become butterflies. And it is she I have listened to complaining or boasting, or sometimes remaining silent, because she's my rose." And he went back to the fox. "Goodbye," said the fox, "and now is my secret. A very simple secret. It is only with one heart that one can see clearly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." "What is essential is invisible to the eye," the little prince repeated, so as to be sure to remember. It is the time you lavish on your rose which makes your rose so important." "It is the time that I have lavished on my rose," said the little prince, so as to be sure to remember. "Men have forgotten the basic truth," said the fox, "but you must not forget it. You become responsible forever for what you have tamed. You are responsible for your rose." "I am responsible for my rose," the little prince repeated to be sure to remember. Chapter 22.
22.
"Good morning," said the little prince. "Good morning," said the railway signalman. "What do you do here?" asked the little prince. "I sort out travelers in bundles of 1,000, said the signalman. "I shunt the trains carrying them, now to the right, now to the left, and a brilliantly lit up express train, roaring like thunder, shook the signal buzz as it rushed by." "They are in a great hurry," said the little prince. "What are they looking for?" "The locomotive driver doesn't even know himself," said the signalman. And a second brilliantly lit express train thundered by in the opposite direction. "Are they already coming back?" asked the little prince. "Those are not the same ones," said the signalman. "It is an exchange." "They were not satisfied where they were?" "No one is ever satisfied where he is," said the signalman. And they heard the roaring thunder of a third brilliantly lit express train. "Are they pursuing the first travelers?" asked the little prince. "They are pursuing nothing at all," said the signalman. "They sleep in them, or they yawn. Only the children press their noses against the window panes. Only children know what they are looking for," said the little prince. "They dote on a rag doll, and it becomes very important to them. And if it is taken away from them, they cry." "They are lucky," said the signalman. Chapter 23.
303, 2023.
Good morning, said the little prince. Good morning, said the merchant. This was a merchant selling sophisticated pills intended to quench one's thirst. If a single pill was swallowed once a week, the need to drink disappeared. Why are you selling those? Asked the little prince. Because it saves a lot of time, said the merchant. Experts have worked it all out. You save 53 minutes a week. And what does one do with those 53 minutes? Whatever one wishes. If I have 53 minutes to spend, said the little prince, I will walk very slowly towards the spring of fresh water. Chapter 24. Chapter 24. It was now 8 days since I had broke down in the desert, and I listened to the story of the merchant while drinking the last drop of my water supply. Ah, I said to the little prince, these memories of yours are quite charming, but I haven't yet succeeded in repairing my plant. I have no water left to drink, and I too will be happy if I could walk slowly towards a spring of fresh water. Friend the fox said to me, my dear little chap, this has nothing to do with the fox. Why not? Because I am going to die of thirst. He didn't follow my reasoning and replied, it is good to have had a friend, even if one is going to die. I am very happy to have had a fox as a friend. He does not realize the danger, I said to myself. He's never hungry or thirsty. All he needs is a little sunshine. But he looked at me and responded to my thoughts. I am thirsty too. Let's go and look for a well. I made a gesture of weariness. It is absurd to look for a well at random. Nevertheless, he started walking. We walked for hours in silence. Darkness fell and the stars began to come out. Thirst had made me slightly feverish, and seldom as in a dream. The little prince's last words came dancing back into my mind. So you're thirsty too? I asked him. But he did not reply to my question and said simply, water might also be good for my heart. I didn't understand his answer, but I remained silent. I knew only too well that there was no point in questioning him. He was tired and sat down. I sat down beside him. After a short silence, he spoke again. The stars are beautiful because of a flower that cannot be seen. I replied, of course. And I looked at the sand dunes under the moonlight in silence. The desert is beautiful, he added. And it was true. I have always loved the desert. One sits down on a sand dune, sees nothing and hears nothing. Yet you can feel a silent radiation. What makes the desert so beautiful, said the little prince, is that it hides a well somewhere. I was surprised by the sudden awareness of the sand's mysterious radiation. When I was a little boy, I lived in a very old house, and a legend told us that a treasure was buried there. To be sure, nobody had ever discovered it or nor even searched for it. Perhaps, but it can cast an enchantment over that house. My home was hiding a secret in the depths of its heart. Yes, I said to the little prince, the house, the stars, or the desert, the source of their beauty cannot be seen. I am glad to see that you agree with my fox, he said. As the little prince fell asleep, I took him in my arms and started walking again. I was deeply moved. It seemed to me that I was carrying a very fragile treasure. It seemed to me even that there was nothing more fragile in all the earth. In the moonlight, I gazed at the pale forehead, the closed eyes, the locks of hair trembling in the breeze, and said to myself, what I see here is nothing but a shell. What is most important is invisible. As his lips opened slightly with the suspicion of a half smile, I said to myself once again, what moves me so deeply about this little prince sleeping here is his loyalty to a flower. The image of a rose shining through his whole being like the flame of a lamp, even when he's asleep, and I felt him to be more fragile still. Lamps should be protected with great care. A gust of wind can extinguish them, and I walk on and at daybreak I discovered the well. And that's the end. Chapter 25. Man, said the little prince, crowding to express trains without knowing what they are looking for. So they become agitated and rush round in circles. After a pause, he added, "It is not worth the trouble." The well we had reached did not look like the usual wells of the Sahara. The Sahara wells are simpler holes dug in the sand. This one looked like a well in a village, but there was no village here, and I thought I was dreaming. "How strange," I said to the little prince. "Everything is ready for use. The pulley, the bucket, and the rope." He laughed. "Touch the rope and set the pulley working." And the pulley moaned like an old weathercock when the wind has been asleep for a long time. "Can you hear?" said the little prince. "We have awakened the well, and it is singing." I did not wish him to make an effort. "Leave it to me," I said to him. "It is too heavy for you." Slowly I pulled up the bucket and planted it firmly on the edge of the well. I could still hear the singing of the pulley in my ears. And in the water, which was still trembling, I could see the shimmering of the sun. "I am thirsty for this water," said the little prince. "Give me some of it to drink." And I understood what he had been looking for. I raised the bucket to his lips. He drank with his eyes closed. It was as sweet as a festival treat. This water was something entirely different from ordinary nourishment. It was born from the walk under the stars, the singing of the pulley, and the effort of my arms. It was good for the heart, like a gift. When I was a little boy, the lights of the Christmas tree, the music of the midnight mass, the sweetness of the smiling faces, all made up the radiance of the Christmas gift I received. "The man where you live," said the little prince, "grow 5,000 roses in the same garden, and they do not find what they are looking for." "They do not find it," I replied, "and yet what they are looking for could be found in one single rose or a little water." "Yes, indeed," I replied, and the little prince added, "but the eyes are blind. One must look with the heart." I had drunk the water. I was breathing easily. The sand at sunrise is the color of honey, and I was very much enjoying this honey color. What brought me, then, such grief? "You must keep your promise," said the little prince softly, as he had sat down beside me again. "What promise?" "You know, a muzzle for my sheep. I am responsible for this flower." So I took my rough sketches out of my pocket. The little prince looked at them and laughed as he said, "Your bababs are a bit like cabbages." "Oh, and I have been so proud of my bababs." "Your fox's ears, they look a bit like horns, and they are too long." And he laughed again. "You are unfair, little prince. Remember, I could only draw a bow or constrictors from the outside and boa constrictors from the inside." "That's enough," he said. "Children understand." And so I drew a muzzle with my pencil, and my heart ached when I gave it to him. "You have plans I know nothing about." But he didn't answer. Instead, he said to me, "You know, my descent to the earth tomorrow will be its anniversary." Then, after a short silence, he added, "I came down very near here," and he blushed. And once again, without understanding why, I had a strange feeling of sorrow. However, a question came to my mind. "So it is not my mere chance that on the morning I met you, 8 days ago, you were wandering around all by yourself, 1,000 miles from any human habitation. You were returning to the place where you had landed?" The little prince blushed again, and I added a little hesitantly, "Perhaps because of the anniversary?" The little prince blushed again. He never answered questions, but when one blushes, it means yes, does it not? "Oh," I said to him, "I am a bit frightened." "Rest surely," he replied. "Now you must work. You must get back to your engine. I'll be waiting for you here. Come back tomorrow evening." But I remember the fox. One runs the risk of crying a bit if one allows oneself to be tame. And that's the end of chapter 25. Chapter 26.
26, 26, oh 26.
Beside the well, there was the ruin of an old stone wall. When I came back from my work on the following evening, I saw from some distance my little prince sitting on top of it, with his legs dangling, and I heard him saying, "Don't you remember? I was not quite here." "No doubt," another voice answered him, since he replied, "Yes, yes, it is the right day, but not the right spot." I continued walking toward the wall, but still could neither see nor hear anybody. Yet the little prince answered once again, "Yes, of course. You will see where my track begins, in the sand. Just wait for me there. I shall be there tonight." I was a mere 20 meters from the wall, and yet I could see nothing. After a short silence, the little prince spoke again. "Is your poison good? Are you sure it will not make me suffer for too long?" I stopped in my tracks, my heart aching, but I still did not understand. "Now go away," he said. "I want to get down." Whereupon I dropped my eyes to the foot of the wall, and what I saw made me leap into the air. It was there, raising its head toward the little prince, one of those yellow snakes that can kill you in 30 seconds.
What, kill you or what?
30 seconds. Groping in my pocket for my revolver, I started running, but because of the noise I was making, the snake gently slipped back into the sand, like the dying spray of a fountain, and, in no apparent hurry, disappeared among the stones with a little metallic sound. I reached the wall just in time to catch my little prince in my arms. His face was white as snow. "What does this mean?" I asked him. "Why are you talking about the snakes?" I had untied the golden muffler, which never left. I had moistened his temples and given him a little water to drink, and now I didn't dare ask him any more questions. He looked at me gravely and put his arms around my neck. I could feel his heart beating like the heart of a dying bird. "Shot him someone's rifle," he said to me. "I'm so glad you discovered what was the matter with your engine. Now you can go home." "How did you know about that?" I was coming to tell him that my work had been successful, contrary to all expectations, my endeavors. He didn't reply to my question, but whispered, I too am going home today." Then he added a little sadly, "It is much farther away. It is far more difficult." I could sense that something quite extraordinary was about to happen. I was holding him tightly in my arms, like a child, and yet it seemed to me that he was slipping straight down toward an abyss, and I could not do nothing to prevent it. His gaze was grave and lost in the distance. "I have your chip, and I have the box for the chip, and I also have the muzzle." And he smiled sadly. I waited for a long time. I could feel that little by little he was getting warmer. "My dear little man, you were afraid, of course." He had been frightened, but he laughed gently. "I shall be more frightened this evening." Once again I was frozen by a sense of something irreparable, and I realized that I couldn't bear the thought of never hearing that laughter anymore. It was like a spring of fresh water in the desert for me. "Little man," I said, "I want to hear you laughing again." "However," he said to me, "tonight it will be a year. My star will be just above the spot where I came down a year ago." "Little man," I said, "tell me it is just a bad dream. This story of a snake and of a meeting place and the star." But he did not answer my question. Instead he said to me, "What is important cannot be seen." "Yes, I know. Just in it is with the flowers. If you have a flower, which happens to be on a star, it is sweet to gaze at night in the sky. All the stars are bright of flowers." "Yes, I know. It is the same with the water. The draught you gave me was just like music because of the pulley and the rope. You remember, don't you? It was so sweet." "Yes, I know. At night, you will gaze at the stars. Where I live, everything is so small that I cannot show you where mine is. It is better like that. My star will just be one of the stars for you, so you will love." Looking up at them, like, "Oh, They will all be yours, friends, and I have a present for you." He laughed again. "Oh, little man, my dear little man, I love to hear that laughter." "Precisely, that will be my gift," as he was with the water. "What are you saying?" "The stars mean different things to different people," said. "For some who are travelers, the stars are guides. For others, they are nothing more than little lights in the sky. For scholars, they are food for thought. For my businessmen, they are wealth. But for everyone, the stars are silent, except from now on just for you." "What do you mean?" "When you look up the sky at night, since I shall be living on one of them and laughing on one of them. When you look up at the sky at night, since I shall be living on one of them and laughing on one of them, for you it will be as if all the stars were laughing. You and only you will have stars and can laugh." And as he said he laughed, and as he said it, he laughed. "And when you are comforted, time soothes all sorrows. You will be happy to have known me. You will always be my friend. You will want to laugh with me, and from time to time you will open your window just for the pleasure of it, and your friends will be astonished to see you laughing, wistful gazing at the sky. And so you will say to them, 'Yes, the stars always make me laugh,' and they will think you're crazy. I should have a very naughty trick on you." And once again he laughed. "It will be as if I had given you, instead of stars, a lot of little bells that can laugh." And again he laughed. Then he became serious. "Tonight, you know, do not come. I shall not leave you," I said. "I shall seem to be in pain. I should look as if I were dying. It is like that. Do not come to see that. There's just no point." But I should not leave you. But I was worried. "I am telling you this, partly because of the snake. He must not bite you. Snakes are vicious creatures. They can bite just for the fun of it. I shall not leave you." But a thought reassured him. It is true that they have no poison left for a second bite. That night I did not see him set out. He had left without a sound. When I managed to catch up with him, he was walking along with a quick and resolute step. He merely said to me, "Oh, you are there," and he took me by the hand, but he was still worrying. "You should not have come. You will be unhappy. I should look as if I were dead, and it will not be true." I said nothing. "You must understand, it is too far. I cannot carry this body with me. It is too heavy. I will look like an old abandoned shell, not anything to be sad about." I said nothing. He was a little discouraged, but he made one last effort. "You know, it will be nice. I too shall look at the stars. All the stars will be wells with rusty pulleys." Chapter 27. And now 6 years have already gone by. I have never before told this story. The companions who met me when I returned were glad to see me alive. I was sad, but I told them I was tired. Now my sorrow is comforted a little. In other words, I have recovered, but not entirely. But I know that he has gone back to his planet, because I did not find his body at daybreak. It wasn't such a heavy body, after all, and I love to listen to the stars at night. It is like listening to 500 million little bells. But one thing worries me. When I drew the muzzle for the little prince, I forgot to add the letter strapped to it. He will never be able to fasten it on his chip, so I keep wondering what has happened on his planet. Perhaps the sheep has eaten the flower. From time to time I say to myself, surely not. The little prince covers his flower every night with her glass glove and watches his sheep carefully. Then I am happy. And all the stars laugh softly. But then I think, everyone can be absent-minded at times, and it only takes once. He forgot the glass glove one evening, or the chip slipped out noisily during the night. and the little bells all change themselves into tears. This is indeed a great mystery for those of you who, like me, love A Little Prince. Nothing in the universe can be the same while somewhere nobody knows where. A sheep, which we have never seen, might or might not have eaten a flower. Look at the sky. Ask yourselves, has the sheep eaten the flower? Yes or no? And you will see how everything changes. And no grown-ups will ever understand why it is so important. This is to me the most beautiful and saddest landscapes in the world. It is the same landscape as in the preceding picture, but I have drawn it once again to impress it upon your memory. It is here that the little critters appear on earth, and then disappear. Look very carefully at the landscape so as to be sure to recognize it. If ever one day you travel to Africa through the desert, and if you should happen to come upon this spot, please do not hurry on. Wait for a time, exactly under the star. Then, if a child comes towards you, if he laughs, if he has golden locks, and if he refuses to answer questions, you will surely guess who he is. So be kind, do not leave me grieving. Write to me quickly to tell me that he has come back.
That's the end of the story.
And that's the end of the story. I hope you like it.
I hope you like the end.
Please make sure to subscribe.